GBNews can reveal that multiple radical Islamic preachers appear to be coming to the UK in a few days' time. Mufti Muhammad ibn Munir studied Islam in Yemen when it was an al-Qaeda stronghold. He preaches that Muslims should hate non-Muslims.
General principle in al-Islam of al-bara' wal-wala, as was explained by Ibn Qayyim and many others, is to love and to hate for the sake of Allah, which is simply summed up as loving the Muslims and hating the non-Muslims. Being loyal to the Muslims and not being loyal to the non-Muslims.
In regards to taking the disbelievers as friends and intimate companions, can a person keep a close relationship with his previous friends and colleagues before he accepted Islam from school, etc.? No and yes. No, they are not your friends, and they are not allowed to be treated as your friends. The yes part, you keep in relations with them to call them to Islam and to invite them to your way of life.
He thinks that Muslims should be able to say that Jews have earned Allah's wrath.
Statement, you make a comment about this, about that, about the Christians, about the Jews, what do? Huh? They get a problem. Oh, we have to edit the video, Sheikh. Huh? We have to make the video private, yeah, Sheikh, because you mentioned that the Jews are maghdubi alayhim. You said that the Jews are those who earned Allah's wrath and they're jealous. We can't publish your video. Ish hada. What is this? And what's next? The next thing that bothers them or irritates them was politically incorrect. We take that out and we don't mention that and we don't talk about it. What is hada? When does it stop? The neutering of the Muslim, spading his courage. When does it stop?
He says that the highest form of martyrdom is to die fighting jihad.
Even though they're called shaheed or shuhada, they're not of the same level of the shaheed al-ma'rakah, of the one who died on the battlefield. Everyone understand this? It's very important to understand and not to mix these things up. Is that the one who dies on the battlefield is of the prime, highest level. And even though others are called shaheed, they're not what? On his level of shaheedism, like he is. And this goes to show you the virtue of jihad fi sabilillah.
He appears to suggest that Jews are evil.
As soon as they get to kill someone, they kill someone. Every single opportunity. And they have the nerve to have a supposed Star of David. And they supposedly attribute themselves to David. David has nothing to do with you. Solomon has nothing to do with you. You have nothing to do with David. You have nothing to do with Solomon. You have bloodlust. You lust for slaughter and the murdering of people and the manipulation of people. You're evil.
He thinks that men shouldn't have to ask for permission to have multiple wives, and if a woman doesn't like it, then just suck it up, sister. Your man has dominion over you.
Asking permission to take on a second wife proves that you're a weak man. Hiding polygamy from your first wife proves that something's wrong with you as a man. Listen, sister, I love you. I give you all your rights. I give you the time. I give you the necessary love and affection. I'm taking on a second wife. I'm not doing it out of spite. I'm not doing it to hurt you. It's what Allah and His Messenger made permissible. You want to stay? Ahlan wa sahlan. You can't deal with it. It's too much for you.
Ironically, he also appears to say that adulterers should be stoned to death, and he uses the term zina, which means adultery in Islam, but he appears to suggest that it should be done to make them suffer.
Obviously, there are other things that a person can do in which he or she can face capital punishment in Islam, but he starts off by saying that zina is death, punishable by death. Listen carefully. He says, in the death in which the person suffers who makes zina is the ugliest type of death. The punishment for someone who is married and then they make zina is to be stoned to death. Just think about stoning someone to death. Just think about an animal. The rocks are not huge boulders. You're not hitting the zani with cinder blocks, nor tiny pebbles, moderate-sized rocks. So just imagine how many rocks have to be hurled and thrown for a person to die. How much pain and agony is experienced at that time.
He goes on to say that removing jihad from the Quran is like removing sweetness from honey, and makes a point that wearing designer clothes might support homosexuality or people who bomb Palestinians.
You're trying to take jihad from the Kitab and the Sunnah is trying to take sweetness out of honey.
If it doesn't have a symbol of kufr, it doesn't have the name of a non-Muslim, then perhaps it's permissible to wear it. Whereas if you buy other clothes, designer clothes, you may be supporting homosexuals, as we said. or you may be supporting people that bomb our brothers in Palestine.
Well, unfortunately for our mate the Mufti, here he is, wearing a Ralph Lauren top. Now, Ralph Lauren is founded by a Jewish man and proudly states that they have supported the LGBTQ plus community for more than 25 years. Quite literally not practicing what he preaches there. Mufti, my old mate. He is due to take part in a Ramadan extravaganza that is coming to London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds and Glasgow between the 19th and 23rd of Feb. But hang on a minute. Who else was on that leaflet? Oh, it's Mohammed Hoblos. Now, Hoblos, who is an Australian and Lebanese individual, has been banned from the Schengen area in the past for being too extremist and radical. He said that whilst all sins were bad, Muslim paedophiles who never miss a prayer are better in the eyes of Allah than good citizens who do miss prayers. Which is interesting in light of the Pakistani rape gang epidemic, isn't it? But here he is.
So you and your brother, yeah, I'm a good guy. Habibi, God packed that up because it's not going to work on the day of judgment. Any person that misses one salah, one, not two, one salah, you miss one salah for no reason, you're worse than a murderer, you're worse than a rapist, you're worse than a terrorist, you're worse than a pedophile in the eyes of Allah.
Calm, rational, nice guy. He reportedly supported violence carried out by Hamas and called for other Muslims to support it. So he is deemed too radical for continental Europe, but he's fine to come to Birmingham, Leeds, London, Manchester and Glasgow, is he? Great. All right. I don't think these people should be allowed to come to Britain, even if, by some, I nearly said miracle, it's probably the wrong turn of phrase here, they end up doing it virtually down the line. I don't think that they should be allowed to preach in Britain. I don't think they should be allowed to spew their medieval hatred in our country. But more than that, much more than that, what is the ideology of someone who buys a ticket to go and watch these radicals speak? Should that not in itself be a massive red flag to the authorities? Is that not an indication that they themselves might be just a touch radical? I mean, we've got form for this. An Islamist cleric who said that critics of the Prophet Muhammad should have their heads chopped off was due to speak in the UK a couple of years ago. Inayat Ullah Abbasi had his talks cancelled after a GBNews investigation. He had previously praised Hitler for killing Jews. He praised the 9/11 hijackers. He was allowed into Britain, though. So we'll let these people in to give talks to crowds of people who, it seems, maybe enjoy that kind of radical content they serve up. But why? We have contact with one Ummah who appears to have been organising this event. They haven't got back to us, but supposedly this is their London branch. You ready? And we've got a picture. There we are. Just looks like a derelict building in East London, doesn't it? But anyway, we have contacted the Home Office and they say that they won't comment on individual cases. So I'll put a bet on now, shall I, 10 quid, that this lot end up poisoning Britain with their presence in a few days' time. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got columnist Esther Kraku, we've got political commentator Jonathan Liss, and Tory MP for Tatton, Esther McVeigh. Esther McVeigh, I'll start with you. I mean, should these people be allowed into Britain, do we think, really?
Well, in a way, you've already got them in Britain. We're watching them on TV now. So you're saying physically should we have them in Britain? And I guess you've got to say, well, where do you think cancel culture starts and ends? We believe in free speech, but how far does free speech go? What is the criminality they are committing? Now, if we're saying it's incited to violence, then they've done a criminal act, then they get shipped out straight away. But actually, the more I'm listening to those guys, actually, the more they're alienating me. Actually, the more I'm hearing them, I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, I'm understanding more about you. I do not like what you stand for. I do not like what you're saying. I don't want to be anywhere near you. So in a way, by revealing what they stand for, rather than, I don't know, disguising it in a more comforting way, actually, they've just expose themselves for the idiots that they are, and I want somebody to stand up to them and tell them they're idiots. So I believe in free speech in that regard, but if they commit a criminal act, they shouldn't be here.
Well, this is one of the values of free speech. I don't believe in curtailing what people think or the individual's thoughts, because you have to let it out, because you have to know the people that are your neighbours, the people that you're living with in a country. I would assume, because we live in a country with borders and the Prevent scheme is still active, that every single person that's going to be in attendance to these, these events will be assessed, or will at least
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
I would think so.
You'd hope so.
I would hope so. I don't really, like, these people are available online, so there's no. I really don't see much. I mean, ideally, it just wouldn't be nice for them to have it come into the UK, but really, I don't think anything is going to be achieved by turning their plane around. However, I think the fact that this is readily available on the internet, and we are the most surveyed country in the world. Let's be honest, with cameras everywhere. I think we can reasonably assume, as British taxpayers, that some authorities are at least monitoring the people that are viewing these content. This kind of content.
I mean, you look
regularly.
at some people who aren't allowed into Britain or haven't been historically. I think Geert Wilders.
That was in 2009.
Yeah. But so historically, Geert Wilders wasn't allowed in. He is, or for a period of time, was the Dutch leader. Is he still the Dutch leader? Still, isn't he?
No, he's the leader of the Freedom Party.
Hard to tell with their PR system over there.
Leader of the
Freedom Party, right? Okay. And he wanted to ban Islam.
He's come to the UK many times since then.
Yeah, that's come to you, but for a while we banned him, right?
No, it was for a specific reason.
Why should we? Okay, fine. But so in your view, Jonathan, I'm asking you: do you think that we should be, if we have the option, which we do, to allow people who it appears are willing to say that Jews are evil, that adulterers need to be stoned, all sorts of pretty radical stuff, spouting about how, jihad is a fervent duty and something to be liked. Should they be allowed into Britain?
I think that, I'm actually surprised that I agree with a lot of what the S's have said. Except I certainly wouldn't support, I think it's a horrible idea to surveil people who go to these things. There are all kinds of reasons why people might want to attend.
You wouldn't want...
I have a general principle, Patrick. I think that we have to be consistent.
Okay.
I think that in general there needs to be an incredibly high bar to stop people from coming to this country to deliver a speech that we might hate. And now, obviously, from what I've seen of these people, I hate. No. But here's the thing. But okay, fine. But that, as we know, that will happen over the internet anyway. So unless if you want to stop radicalisation, actually physically listening to someone speak is a kind of very sort of analogue way of doing that.
What possible? Yeah. I mean, you said there are various reasons why people attend the events, hosted by these medieval barbarians. What possible reason could someone have for attending an event?
I think it's a separate question, Esther.
No, I'm just curious, because you said there's like various reasons. I'm curious, what possible intolerant, hateful reasons
people can people can believe all kinds of things, and they can be. People can have deeply intolerant views. These are.
No, seriously. Have you thought about that?
These people could be your neighbours. I'm just on a practical level. I know we often talk about these people are just in the UK. The UK is not just some random island. People that live here, they're communities. These people are living in communities. They're someone's neighbour.
What they could do, though, aren't they, if they come out and you say we know where they're going, they could draw out all the people that we should be monitoring. Because we can't monitor when they're watching this hatred online, but if they came somewhere, we watch and we do survey. Who goes to it? Who wants to listen to this? Who wants to become a part of it? And then we know to get the prevent regime on time.
Listening to people speak is not a crime. So if these people are guilty of crimes under British law, then I don't think they should be permitted. And if they propose to commit crimes while they're here, such as by inciting violence or hatred...
But being honest, being as anti-gay as they are, and that wouldn't be what you would be supporting.
No, of course not. But I'm also in favour of free speech, and I also am in favour of people whose views I loathe, provided they are not breaking the law.
It's actively dangerous. This is the thing, right? So, it's all very well and good listening to someone give a speech about something that you don't agree with, but it's different, is it not, if they're talking about which type of stone you should use to inflict corporal punishment onto an adulterous woman. How does this promote British values? Haven't we got enough jihad here already?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I think these people should be allowed into the country. I'm saying, have they committed a crime? If so, then they shouldn't be allowed in.
So if we just
loathe their opinions, that's different.
But so incitement to violence, which some people could say they are doing, right? Where would you draw that line?
That is for legal experts of the Home Office to decide if they are to judge. If they have literally,
hold on, but they haven't. If they're not on British soil, they can't have committed a crime.
You can look at people's previous speeches. You can ask them what they propose.
The law has limits.
No, I'm not suggesting we prosecute them for things that they're seeing on YouTube. We can say, should we let them in the country based on what they say?
One thing's really important, which is that it appears that one of those guys, Mohammed Hoblos, is not allowed anywhere on continental Europe. So he's banned from entering the Netherlands. He's banned from entering a few other countries as well, we believe, right? But he can come to Britain. Why? But Esther, why should that be allowed? Seriously, I mean...
Well, I like I said, you know, where does free speech start and where does it end? And for me, it would be in the criminal act of incitement to violence. And if that is what he's done and that is what he's done here, why we then...
But does he have to be in Britain to do that?
Well,
because this is the thing. The British courts doesn't have a jurisdiction in Guatemala, so he could be. These people could have recorded their hateful speeches in Guatemala, and then you could say, "Oh, we have to wait for them to commit that crime in Britain before we can kick them out."
But I guess what I would do, look at the other countries where he's been banned, and why was that? Did he, when he was there?
Well, I mean, that's logical.
Yeah, that's right, and I am logical, and that's what you do, and therefore I say...
your name.
So that's why I say, well, and therefore he can't, if he has already done that. So you've got a track record.
I mean, if you have a criminal record here in Britain, you can't go to the US. Because you haven't committed a crime in America.
And if you have a criminal record in other countries, you can't come here either.
But it's because you haven't committed a crime in America. However, there is this understanding that Britain has a strong criminal justice system, and if you commit a crime there, you're likely to commit a crime in the US.
Do you think it says a lot about the current state of Britain that you can have these two people who are on record saying some pretty deeply unpalatable things, some things that are, I think, in the case of at least one of them, directly, it appears, linked to Sharia law, that's the strict fundamentalist interpretation of the Quran, which he goes on about, and that we apparently have arenas full of people who are willing to go and pay money to go and listen to that content, presumably because they enjoy it. Don't think that says a lot about modern Britain?
But that is actually a slightly different question from whether they should be allowed in. And I think that's why the question about whether they should be allowed in a way, is a distraction. Because... as we know, radicalisation happens online. It happens by people who are very sort of interested in these types of opinions. And of course, that is a serious problem.
That's a much
bigger problem.
So you accept that we have the people who go to that event are probably quite radical.
I'm saying there's a chance that some of them are. Right. And by the way, just to finish off what we were saying before, I remember in 2009 when this happened, I also disagreed with that. I think that there needs to be a very, very high bar. But the greater problem is there is a lot of hate, and it's spread on the internet much more than it is in arenas. And if people also see that their people are not being allowed in, that actually sort of just sends them further into sort of the recesses of the internet.
Possibly it does, and there is always that risk. But I just think we have an opportunity here as a country to block a couple of radical Islamic preachers from entering Britain.
Well, I mean,
why wouldn't we take that opportunity?
I think Jonathan made an excellent point about the fact that we should be more concerned with homegrown terrorists than anything, particularly. I mean,
But how do you home grow them, isn't it? I watch that stuff on the internet.
So a quarter of people convicted of terrorist offences here in the UK have asylum backgrounds. So they're people that come with their families as refugees, and then for some reason they're not properly integrated in British society. They don't share our values, and then they go and commit crimes like the Manchester bomber did. So how do you de-radicalise those people? Well, you can start by actually saying this is a country that doesn't tolerate things that are against British values.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to go and vox pop, and indeed maybe somebody will, the people who are queuing up for that. But look, I don't know, my view on this is pretty clear. I just don't see that they've got any place in Britain. I ban them, get them out. I think what they're saying is absolutely vile. But we did contact the charity One Ummah and the Mufti Mohammed Ibn Munir, but we are yet to hear back. So, we live in hope.